Hello, everyone. Sounds like you can hear me. I'm Stephanie Bolger. I'm the president of Lane Community College, and I want to thank you so much. Thank you, and welcome to all of you for being here at our main campus. What we do here at Lane is that we create positive change for all of the communities that we serve throughout Lane County and beyond. I must say, because I have the mic right now, so I must say thank you to Congresswoman Hoyle for all of her support. We could not be more grateful for all of the support by Congresswoman Hoyle. And so this is a special opportunity for the community, but I wanted to make sure that we acknowledge your support of us. And also to Mayor Knudsen, we're really appreciating her for all of her support of Lane Community College as the mayor of the city of Eugene. And then, of course, retired Representative Peter DeFazio. Very much. And let's welcome Max Richmond also. So thank you. Now I'd like to introduce Mayor Knudsen to come to the podium.
Thank you all. Welcome, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be with you here at Lane Community College today. Thank you, President Bolger, for your support, for all of the staff. Everyone has made it possible for us to gather here today, especially, of course, to the Congresswoman for her leadership. And also welcome to all of the constituents from Southwest Oregon who are Zooming in to join us. We are delighted to have you here with us today. It's really, I think, a special opportunity, and right now particularly poignant, to have elected representation that is not only actively interested in hearing from constituents and engaging with our community, but is doing the work to make this possible and trying to make it as easy as possible for as many people as possible to be connected to our government and its work. So I'm grateful to Representative Hoyle for that leadership, because it is truly leadership in this time. Briefly, before introducing our speakers and hearing their opening remarks, just want to give an overview of the run of show. We'll have a chance to hear from each of our speakers. Max Richmond, who is President and CEO of the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare, former Congressman Peter DeFazio, and of course, Representative Val Hoyle. After those brief remarks, we will have Q&A, and I'll be reading tickets pulled from a bowl. Make sure that you have a ticket and information if you would like to ask a question today. And I'll also remind you now and at the end that there's always an opportunity to have your question answered by the Congresswoman's office. They're both QR codes here in the room, and you all know that she is always hard at work and accessible and available to you to answer questions, so there will be an opportunity to do that. And so I will just say that it's a pleasure to have this opportunity to focus on senior issues and Medicare and other earned benefits at a time when there is so much uncertainty about the future of these programs, and to have expertise with us in the room to be able to help us understand what is currently on the table for discussion at our federal government and how it is that these programs are necessary and foundational to our communities. So with that, I will welcome Representative Val Hoyle to the microphone. Thank you all for being here.
For being here, and Mayor Knudsen and Lane Community College for helping provide this space. We're also live streaming this town hall because, as you all know, this district is very large. It's 17,000 square miles. We have people that are in rural communities. We also have people watching that are in other states and in other districts, because unlike Oregon, there are places where people do not, their Congress people do not do town halls. Can you imagine that? That they don't want to hear from their constituents, and that is not the Oregon way. So speaking of the Oregon Way, we will be having questions asked, and as we say at all of our town halls, all questions are welcome, and we ask people to be respectful. There may be different opinions, but we're here to answer as many questions as possible. I've done 7 town halls, 1 in each county in this district and 2 in Lane County, and we'll be doing more in a few months that are more general town halls. Today, this town hall is to address Social Security specifically. And so we'll only be taking questions on Social Security. I just did 3 town halls in the southern part of the district, in Curry, Coos, and Douglas County, and in every single one, people talked about not being able to get through to Social Security, waiting for 4, 6, 8 hours, then getting disconnected. And this is on purpose. I'm going to quote my good friend John Larson, who has a bill to expand Social Security. I will tell you that my first bill when I got into the legislature into Congress in 2023, and my first bill this time around was to expand Social Security by lifting the cap. Lifting the salary cap so we can extend the solvency of Social Security and increase the benefit $2,400 a month. I put forward this bill with Senator Bernie Sanders, Representative Jan Schakowsky, and Senator Warren. But my colleague, John Larson, he said, by requiring seniors and disabled Americans to enroll online or in person in the same field offices that they're trying to close rather than over the phone, Trump and Musk are trying to create chaos and inefficiencies at Social Security offices so that they can privatize the system. So let's be clear, that is their end goal. So with that, I am going to hand the mic over to Congressman Peter DeFazio. So again, we have 2 experts, and we're here to answer your questions, and we're looking forward to it.
Well, thanks, Val. Val is doing an absolutely fabulous job. I thank her every time I talk to her for being there in Washington, D.C. We should all thank her. It's a very, very difficult time. I have a lot of history with Social Security, got a degree in gerontology, counseling, public administration at U of O many years ago. I worked for Jim Weaver, and I started tracking Social Security, started reading trustees' reports in the 1970s. And you know, they've always talked about Social Security is going to go broke. No, Social Security isn't going to go broke. They're going to have insufficient cash flow starting about 2034 to pay full benefits, unless we do something. There are 3 options. Well, you can cut benefits. You can increase the retirement age again. I haven't met too many 80-year-old loggers out there, so I don't think we're going to increase the retirement age again. So the other option is to make the system fair, and that is every person who works in the United States of America will pay the same % of their income into Social Security, and that will secure benefits for the system indefinitely, as far as you can project, 75 years into the future, and benefits could be increased, particularly for people with the lower end of the scale. Bernie Sanders and I introduced a bill to do that back in the 90s. Val is carrying the torch forward on that bill and also on John Larson's bill. John Larson is the senior Democrat on Ways and Means Committee that has jurisdiction over this. Now, just one more thing. Social Security is the most efficient and underappreciated system in a lot of ways. 1% is the cost of administering Social Security out of benefits. 1%. Now they're saying, what they're trying to do is say, oh, well, they've got too many people. No, they're understaffed now. They have been forever. And if we increase Social Security staffing, it doesn't count toward the federal deficit. It comes out of the Social Security Trust Fund, the payroll tax. It will not. So when Elon Musk and the Doge boys and Trump say, oh, we're just trying to save money and cut the deficit, no, you're not, because it doesn't count. What you're trying to do is make Social Security less efficient so you can back to the same old thing, which is privatization. You know what happens when it gets privatized? It's going to look just like the Medicare Advantage and other plans. the overhead won't be 1%, it will be 26%. That's what private insurance companies take, and that's what Wall Street would take to administer this program. So we need to keep it public. We need to secure it forever by lifting the cap. And with that, Max Richmond has been a friend of mine for decades. He runs the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare. If you're not a member, join up, because they're fighting for you every day back in Washington, D.C. Max?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Congresswoman, for inviting me. I want to acknowledge Mike Honda, former congressman from California who came over, a good friend of mine and a good friend of Social Security. I'm Max Richmond. I'm the president of the Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare. We were founded in 1982 by a former congressman from California, retired, worried about what was going to happen to Social Security under the new Reagan administration. He wanted to preserve what he felt was his father's greatest legacy, and his father was President Roosevelt. He created our organization, and his son, James Roosevelt Jr., is the vice chair of our board. So I'm very happy to be here. I can't explain the situation any better than the Congresswoman, the former Congressman. Let me just say, I want to ask you, how many of you watched the President's joint address to Congress a month ago? I watched it too. While I was watching it, I got a text from a friend of mine, and the text said, the movie The Wizard of Oz is 86 years old. If Dorothy encountered a group of people today with no brains, no courage, and no heart, she wouldn't be in Oz, she'd be at a meeting of congressional Republicans. I don't know about the no brains part, but I sure believe that what that text said about heart and courage. How else do you explain all that applause? You saw it in the Congress, all that applause for lie after lie after lie, including a lot of lies about Social Security. I have spent the last few years trying to put to rest a lot of lies about Social Security, that there's no money there, it was stolen. That's not true. Peter explained how it's not bankrupt. We need to make some changes to make sure it can continue well into the future. The only way Social Security could ever be bankrupt is if we had 100% unemployment. Nobody was working, nobody was paying. So those lies that it's an entitlement, it's not, it's an earned benefit. You'll like this, that big lie, members of Congress don't pay Social Security. That's not true. Peter paid them, you pay them. Undocumented workers are stealing Social Security. Another big lie. There are a lot of cases where undocumented workers will get a number, will pay Social Security, their employer pays, but guess what? They can never collect, because yes, the opposite is happening. Undocumented workers last year contributed billions of dollars that they can never collect. So after trying to fix all these lies, I listened to this speech about people that are 200-300 years old collecting Social Security. Well, yeah, you laugh because it's a big lie. Or his pal, Elon Musk, saying that this is the huge Ponzi scheme. Really? A Ponzi scheme? Social Security is going to be 90 years old, August 14th. Everybody that's been expecting benefits, been paid on time, in full. That's not the way a Ponzi scheme works. So why is all this happening? As the Congresswoman said, this is an effort to undermine the program, to destabilize the program, cut benefits, cut offices, cut staff, so you will undermine the support for the program. This is why President Trump keeps saying, I won't touch Social Security, right? I won't touch Social Security. He knows how popular it is. 80–90% of Democrats, Republicans, Independents support Social Security, support your bill to expand and improve Social Security. So the only way he can get to that end, which is privatizing the program, is to soften that support. That's what's going on, and I hope we can talk about some of that this afternoon. Thank you so much.
Okay, we are moving swiftly, but right on time, into our Q&A. And there are microphones that are going to come to you in the room. And I'm going to read 2 numbers at first and then try to keep someone on deck. So our first number, reading just the last 3 numbers, is 875. And the second question will be 879. Those are our first 2 questions, 875 and 879. I don't see you pop up. I'm just going to keep moving right on down the list here. 938, 938. I see a hand up there in the bleachers. Thank you. And then the question after 938 will be 877.
Hi, thank you all for being here. Love seeing you. How do you approach and question your Republican colleagues who swear they will not cut Social Security, but who you know are going to bow to dear leader and do just that?
Well, nobody has ever suggested that I'm shy or unclear when I talk to people, and I talk to my Republican colleagues the same way I talk here. I talk the same way in the most conservative parts of my district as I do right here in Eugene, Oregon, which is to say, you ran on, and your president ran on, not cutting Social Security and not cutting Medicare. And we will hold you to that. And, you know, the one thing that they do, so I was, for a brief time, part of the Doge Caucus, which is a group of members, it had nothing to do with Elon Musk, that were trying to find efficiencies in government. And I decided, once we saw what Elon Musk was being allowed to do, they were destroying government. You can't find efficiencies, right? You can't put a roof on your house when someone's throwing dynamite into the living room. It's just, it wasn't right. But in there, Republicans talked about their messaging, saying, well, when you talk about Social Security, say you're not going to cut benefits, right? Because they know what they're going to do. They're trying to privatize the system. And again, they're trying to throw as many people off of Social Security as possible, which is why they're saying everyone has to come into the office, but you have to call to make an appointment, and then they fired the people that would answer the phone and shut down offices, right? This is on purpose. Now, they've changed that just recently so people can call about their benefits, but understand the chaos they are causing is intentional. And so we call it out every single way we can. I'm on the Natural Resources Committee. We had a bill, you might have heard about it. Apparently, my Republican colleagues think the most important thing we can be doing right now is to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. I pointed out that there were other things that we should be working on, right? Like the fact that they are trying to steal our Social Security, our earned benefits. So the question is, how do I talk to my Republican colleagues? Just exactly the same way I am now, saying that we're going to hold them accountable for what they ran on, because if we don't, I know you will.
877. I see a gentleman standing there. We'll need a microphone so that our zooming in constituents can also hear the question. And then 927 is the question after.
Okay. When we are efficient using it seems like there's an assumption being made that everybody has access to the internet. When they make these things that, oh, you can do your services to the internet, and more, they set the requirement that the internet is a private thing. There's no government internet. There's no government that guarantee that everybody will get a broadband connection. I don't have one in town here. I'm lucky because I have a place way out on the coast that has one. But why? There are internet holes right here. shadow, because there's shadow or something else. So the whole thing is, I guess the question is, you know, how do we make sure that everybody has equal access?
So representing a very largely in terms of space rural district, many of my constituents do not have high-speed internet. We also have seniors and people with disabilities that maybe can't work their way through the process. So again, not being able to use the phone to apply for your Social Security benefits, it is a feature, not a bug, to make it so that the people who need Social Security the most can't access it. But because of the strong outcry from members of Congress and also from Social Security recipients, right? They heard from all of you. The Trump administration turned that edict around so that now people can use the phone to apply for their Social Security benefits. But we have to keep talking about it. People in rural communities and the most vulnerable are impacted the most, and you're not wrong. So you can use the phone now, but again, if you have trouble getting through, contact our office. So we've got staff that are here, so contact our office and we can help you get through to the office if you're struggling yourself.
Question number 927 or question number 896. We have 927. Microphone on the way.
Hi, my name is... I'm retired from federal service. It breaks my heart to see the way the federal government's being torn apart. My husband just just applied for his Social Security benefits. We did it online. He got a letter. I called the local office yesterday about the letter we were hung up on after 10 minutes. So I called the toll-free number. Wait time was, and I'm not kidding, 120 minutes. So thank you for what you're doing. Social Security needs more employees, not fewer. Thank you.
Nine 952. 952 in the room. Also a reminder of 875 or 879. 883. The last three numbers on your ticket. I see a hand up in the second row of the bleachers.
Hi, Val Hoyle. I'm asking you to submit a class action FOIA, Freedom of Information Act demand that the head of Social Security, Doge, Aram Mogadassi, submit to you on behalf of all your constituents what personal information Doge has collected on each one of us, who Doge has disclosed it to, what information Doge has solicited from other departments such as HHS and Homeland Security, and what information Doge has changed or deleted or sold, and request that any and all information details that we have a legal right to know.
That is a reasonable request, and my colleagues and I are working on something like that. I will tell you that we saw an email a few weeks ago that the administration sent to Social Security employees saying that they should not respond to congressional inquiries, and or the inquiries of advocates. So we were able to address that, but yes, we are doing FOIAs every day.
Now, can I just say something on that? You know, Elon Musk now has, they've been through the IRS files, they've been through Social Security, they've been over in other departments of the government. Elon Musk has probably gathered through his Doge people every bit of information on every person in the United States of America, including your bank account, your tax returns, and everything else. And what is the richest man in the world going to do with that? That is a question that needs to be answered. And the Republicans and Donald Trump need to answer for that too.
Number 898. And then after that, 916, 916.
So thank you for being here. I have two sisters who are have extensive disabilities and are 100% dependent on Social Security and Medicaid for survival. One of them is up for renewal in early May for her Medicaid eligibility, and I'm really afraid of what that's going to be like. They will die without those benefits, and it was hard before. I've been, dealing with the Social Security Administration hasn't been easy up until this point. It's been long waits and really difficult and lots of errors. So what is it going to be like now? That's not my question. That's my just expressing a fear. Here's my question. As we're watching what's happening, not only with Social Security, but with congressionally approved expenditures generally, how did the executive branch seize the power of the purse from Congress? And what's the plan to get it back?
So to address your Social Security comment, I will say again that our office and, whatever congressional district you're in, those offices, but will help if you're having trouble accessing your benefits. I have amazing staff, many of them inherited from Peter DeFazio's office, so they've been doing this for a long time, and we will help handhold. We have been able to get responses from the Social Security offices, although it is getting harder as, again, they're inundated and there is less staff there. Federal employees are being pushed out of their jobs. They are being made uncomfortable. They are being confronted with unbelievably disrespectful behavior, hoping that they will quit. So we have federal employees that go to work every single day and they are standing up for Americans. And in terms of the constitutional crisis, and yes, my Republican colleagues did give up the power of the purse. I don't know why they rolled, right? I don't know why they caved when we took an oath to the Constitution, to obey the Constitution, to have separate and equal branches of government. Congress makes the laws, the courts interpret the laws, the executive branch enforces the laws. And my Republican colleagues have decided it's more important to stay out of a primary that is funded by Elon Musk, because they might lose their seat, than it is to stand up for their constitutional obligation. I can't tell you why, but I know that if I took the right vote and lost my seat because of it, I'd sleep at night, and they should too.
So, Congresswoman, I wanted to make a comment on what you just said. I don't know the answer either, but I was watching Senator Lisa Murkowski. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You saw that about a week ago. And she said that her colleagues in the Republican Party are afraid. I thought that was an amazing statement from a veteran United States Senator, that Republicans are afraid. They're afraid to speak out, just for what you said, afraid to be primaried, afraid to have Elon Musk go in with his tens of millions of dollars and try to push them out of office. And I'm just glad I'm here with two members of Congress that are not afraid. Yeah. Peter DeFazio is never afraid, and Val Hoyle is not afraid. And Congresswoman, you mentioned that you wanted me to present you with something when the Spirit moved me. It's moving me, all right?
Great.
So I gave a presentation to Peter a long time ago a long time ago when I came out here. And I'm going to give you the same thing. This Congresswoman is not afraid, but she might need a little bit of extra help when she goes back to Washington to fight for seniors, to fight for you. So these are for you.
For anyone that comes to my office, these will be in my office. Okay, next question. Thank you. I love this.
Number 916 and 907. See 916, I hand in there. 907 is the next question.
Hi, thank you for showing some fire. And I just want to say, my sign says, "Help us Democrats in power, you're our only hope." And I don't have a question. I just want to express my frustration at how awful all this is and that we've got to do something. We've got to stop this guy.
So the way that, again, our government is meant to be set up, separate and equal branches of government, and the way we can fight back is that we have 3 tools to hold an executive branch that is overreaching its constitutionally obligated powers, and that is Congress, courts, and the community. Democrats, we are working to stand up. We are having hearings, and when our Republican colleagues won't have them, we have them separately. We are having town halls. AOC and Bernie Sanders are going to places where they don't have Congress people that will stand up, and tens of thousands of people are showing up. So it's Congress. We don't have power in either of the chambers. It's the courts, right? And the courts, the executive branch is trying to ignore what the courts are saying, and that should bother everyone. Doesn't matter what party you are in. The courts are there for a reason, constitutionally obligated. The founders set that up so that we didn't have a king or a tyrant. We had those checks and balances. And finally, community. The reason we're having this town hall and the reason we're informing you about Social Security, your earned benefits, is that we need to speak up and your voices matter. And one thing I know is you don't mess with seniors. Because you will stand up, because you aren't afraid, because you worked hard your whole lives to earn these benefits, and you're not going to let anyone take them away from you or the next generation. So we need to stand up and come out into the streets and never stop talking. And what I will say is, stop outsourcing your social connections to a social media algorithm that wants to keep you outraged and at odds with your neighbors. I live in a rural community. My neighbors vote differently than I do, but I speak to my neighbors. Speak to people one-on-one and tell them about what's happening, because we are in a situation where people literally have different facts. But don't outsource your social connections to a social media algorithm run by an oligarch who wants to keep you outraged and afraid. Step up, be heard, and that's part of what's happening here today.
Number 907, and then 895. Raise your hand high if those are your numbers, either one. Following on that, 912. So I see maybe 907 or 895, and then 912.
Thank you for being here. In 2016, we adopted our son in the state of Texas, and over the years it became very apparent that alcohol poisoning had caused extreme brain damage for him, leading up to the point that he is now in assisted living because that is the safest option for him and for those in his family. And his entire support system is paid for by Medicaid and Social Security. And there is deep concern that if Social Security is cut, his supports, his availability to function in society will end, and the safety of those who are closest to them is also at jeopardy. I am curious about how Congress is preparing to advocate for the non-traditional Social Security users, the students who rely on that support for their lives. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is an example of someone who can't easily make it to a Social Security office or sit on the phone for 8 hours, right? So Social Security, it's set up for seniors, low-income adults, people with disabilities, and children who've lost a parent. That's the purpose of this benefit. So we're pointing it out and telling the story. So your story matters, because when we can go up and say, what about this person? Is this the person that you meant to hurt or not to be eligible? So please stay in contact with my office. And Congressman or Max, do you have any?
Well, no, but I wanted to make, I've been thinking about this since this meeting started, and there's a lot of frustration and anger about the way the Social Security program is being undermined. But I want to remind you, I want to go back 30 years. Peter was in Congress, Mike Honda was there. 30 years ago, President George W. Bush was reelected in 2000, I think it was 2004, so a little less than that, 20 years ago. And we were in our boardroom watching him come to the podium. He'd just been reelected president. And the first thing out of his mouth is, I have been reelected, I have a mandate, and I'm going to use that mandate to privatize Social Security. You remember that. We're watching in our boardroom, we about fell out of our chairs. It's the first thing he talked about. But the advocate groups, members of Congress, stopped that. We stopped it cold, couldn't even get a vote in a Republican-controlled House of Representatives. So my message is, I know it's a different time, I know we've got a different kind of president, but it is possible to stop something really bad if people are connected and they work on it, they have town hall meetings, and their members of Congress have the support of their constituents. So do not give up on this fight.
On that one, your son is obviously supported by Medicaid. I was back in DC a little while ago, and the senior Democrat on the Commerce Committee, which has been ordered to cut $800 billion out of the budget, asked the Congressional Budget Office, how much can we cut out of our programs without touching Medicare or Medicaid? They said $120 billion. They eliminated everything else. They would still be taking $680 billion out of Medicaid. And Medicaid is paying for services like your son needs. It's also paying for what percent of people in nursing homes? 60%. No, nursing homes. 60% of people in nursing homes are supported by Medicaid. So they cut Medicaid, we're gonna have seniors in the street. They cut Medicaid, how are you gonna be able to care for your son? This is, and Val already talked about this earlier, this is chugging along through the process. There's a little dissent within the Republican Party, because some of them are saying, well, wait a minute, that means my rural hospital goes away. Oh, wait a minute, this is gonna happen to my constituents. I don't know how they're gonna get out of this pickle, but they wanna cut taxes by $4 trillion, mostly benefiting the richest among us. And so therefore they say, well, we have to cut these things so we can afford to pay for tax cuts for the wealthiest people in America. Elon Musk doesn't need a tax cut, let me tell you that.
And Oregon in particular, will be disproportionately affected because of our expansion of the Oregon Health Plan. Again, this is not a Democratic issue or a Republican issue. In my rural communities, it was the one thing brought up in all of our town halls is, what will this do for our rural hospitals? What will this do for the Indian Health Services? It would be devastating for our tribal communities and Indian Health Services. So fundamentally, the Republicans in the Senate kicked the can down the road by saying, well, we're not cutting, Medicare, we're not cutting Medicaid, we're just saying you have to cut this amount of money without specifying. The fact of the matter is, they will have to cut Medicare and Medicaid if they're going to hit that number, and they don't want to do it, and they need to hear from us.
Thank you. Number 912 and 921, the next two numbers, 912 and 921. I see 921 in the second row, and then on deck will be 900.
I'll stand up. So, of course, I'm old, I'm a recipient of these programs, and I can envision a variety of ways that they could begin to chip away at them. And one of the things I have a concern about is that means testing could be introduced to these programs, and I'm wondering if that's something that I should worry about, or I shouldn't even worry about it.
We should worry about everything that has to do with Social Security, because it is a giant target for privatization. If they're not willing to lift the cap to make sure that the wealthiest Americans are paying their fair share, then I think means testing, I can't see the support for that, but fundamentally, they will do anything they can to break this program, but it is incredibly popular, and we need to push back every way possible. Congressman?
Well, means testing would mean they would say, well, now we can cut the program. It's not an earned benefit anymore. It's kind of like welfare. It's just, so you didn't earn your benefit. We're granting you your benefit. So if they go to means testing, that will be a big step toward the end of Social Security. And Trump says higher income retirees do pay tax on their Social Security, and he says he wants to eliminate that. Well, that cuts a big stream of revenue out of that. Money goes directly back into the Social Security Trust Fund. So he's saying, gee, we don't want higher income people to have to pay tax on their Social Security, so we'll eliminate that tax, and then, oh, wait a minute, Social Security is now even in more jeopardy. So, I mean, so many of these things are so twisted. They are totally coming at it from every direction. Every direction. They want to kill it. They have this theory that Americans are lazy and they don't save enough because they know they're going to have Social Security. That's a bunch of BS.
Number 900.
So I wanted to make a comment about means testing, because it's really an important, it's important to have a discussion. I hear often, I'm from Omaha, okay? You know who else is from Omaha? Warren Buffett. Why does Warren Buffett get Social Security? Why do people that have accumulated a lot of wealth get Social Security? They get it because they paid while they were working, right? We've been talking about the difference between an earned benefit and entitlement. Means testing means that your benefit will either be reduced or eliminated if you have some assets, some income when you're older. Means testing will turn Social Security into a welfare program, right? I have never met a single person on Social Security who's ashamed to be on Social Security. Anybody here ashamed to be on Social Security? I have never met a single person who would be proud to be on welfare. If this program is means tested, it becomes a welfare program, and all that support all over the country that I talked about, 80, 90% of Americans, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, support Social Security because it's an earned benefit. It's not a welfare program. We don't want to go there.
Number 900, and then 956, and 929. 956, 929. 932, and 940.
Congressman Hoyle, thank you very much for coming home. We appreciate you. What I'd like to ask is that right now, since you don't have a voting majority in the House or in the Senate, Trump is in the White House, how do you prevent a fast-track bill coming through Congress, through Speaker of the House Johnson, from doing exactly what you're talking about the day after tomorrow?
Well, the day after tomorrow, we're not in session, so we've got a few days respite till next Monday. Here's the deal. Social Security is incredibly popular, right? So the reason that they're picking at this around the edges is if there was a bill on the floor to eliminate Social Security, it would go down in flames. There is a reason President Trump ran and said, I will not cut Social Security or Medicare, right? He said that. So for my Republican colleagues, they said that as well when they were out campaigning because it's so popular. So fundamentally, if it's a bill on the floor, it goes down in flames in a bipartisan way. So tacking at it around the edges and pulling it apart bit by bit, breaking the agency is the only way that they can get that done, which is why we need to call it out and let people know what's happening in real time.
Number 918, after this question.
Hi, my name is Erin Bonner. I'm a professional fiduciary, so I work with a lot of seniors and people with disabilities. And I don't necessarily have a question, I just want to make a statement. So the baby boomers are coming en masse, and there are just so many obstacles to us being able to serve them in an appropriate way with Social Security, with Medicare, with Medicaid. And anything that can be done to streamline those processes for the seniors would be very much appreciated. I was the same as the woman on the earlier who mentioned she was told she would wait 120 minutes. I had 160 minutes the other day when I was on hold with Social Security. I have to drag my 80 and 90-year-old clients down to Social Security so they'll talk to me because I have a power of attorney, but I don't have payee status with them. So it's a very frustrating process, but it's an important process, and it needs to be streamlined. It needs to be accessible for the people who really don't have the means and ability to get to those offices and make those phone calls and spend time on, you know, they're paying me by the hour to be on the phone with them for 4 hours with Social Security just to get a question answered. We don't charge always for that, but it's a frustration that they just can't afford. They can't stay awake for that long. They can't stay up. They can't be sitting in a chair in their office. It's just a frustrating process. So I would appreciate anything that can be done to streamline that process. And I know this is the worst time to be asking that question because of all the cuts, but it's important for people to hear.
Thank you. And this isn't the worst time to ask. We have to highlight these stories to make sure that we talk about the impact of the cuts. Because if we don't talk about it, nobody hears about it, and they get away with it. Also, don't hesitate to contact my office, and we can help usually get through. Either of you have? Okay.
Number 918 and number 942. See one hand up there. And then 944.
Thank you. What else can we do besides stay informed, stand up at rallies and protests to save our Social Security? And is our local office on the chopping block here in Eugene?
Great question. I don't know. We're not getting communication, but for right before things happen. But at this point, not to my knowledge, and we would fight that with everything that we have. There's a few things that you can do. So in addition to speaking up, in addition to contacting our office, letting us know your stories so that we can communicate that and we can protect people's identification. But create a personal account at the Social Security Administration website if you are able. It's my Social Security account. Acquire and save your earnings record, right? Part of DOJ and these unqualified people having access to all of our personal information going into the computer system, that's still COBOL because we have not funded upgrades in our Social Security IT system. So they have a 40-year-old IT system. They're still working on COBOL. Make sure, and again, the DOJ kids, they don't know the system and things are breaking. So acquire and save your earning records, print that out. Regularly review your financial transactions. Very, very important. Track your credit history because we have heard that the Social Security Administration, that the administration has come in and declared people dead. These are supposedly undocumented immigrants, but the way that this administration has been getting things wrong, I wouldn't trust it. So track your credit history because it will show up if somebody reports you dead. Verify your identity with Social Security, the Social Security office in person when you can. So those are some other practical things that you can do.
9:44, 9:36. Either of those tickets. About 9:15 and 9:53.
Yes, my name's Rachel Rich and I'm a retired teacher, but I wanted to speak on behalf of a couple friends of mine who are disabled and live entirely off of Medicaid and Social Security. One of them worked for the state of Texas as a teacher, and they didn't withhold Social Security. And so her Social Security benefit is $444 a month. And she's going to be going into low-income housing here pretty quick. At the same time, she would be Medicaid dependent, and also I hear rumblings about whether or not HUD and Section 8 will be properly funded. So people like that will be on the streets, and we Friends will do the best we can, but she's got medical issues. Another friend is blind, same exact situation, low-income housing, Social Security and Medicaid, and she lives entirely off of those. And to those, somewhere who may think that a woman like that has been lazy because she doesn't have a pension, she followed her husband as he got promotions, and so she was never able to get like a state or federal job or something with benefits. So there are reasons that people are dependent on these things, and she worked all of her life. So I'm speaking out on behalf of people who literally cannot walk here or sit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that is why this program was created by President Roosevelt, to ensure that people could retire in dignity, to ensure that the most vulnerable among us are cared for, so that they're not out on the street, and to ensure people can get the benefits that they earned. And if somebody is raising a family while their spouse is at work, that's work. That is work. It is work you don't get paid for, but it is work.
Well, let me comment on that, because I know you support proposals that would recognize that work. And we do too. There are a number of proposals been in the Congress for the last few years that would give a caregiver credit to people who, and it's mostly women, who leave the workforce for a number of years to take care of children, a parent, sometimes a parent of the spouse. It's usually women, and their benefits are reduced as a result of that. So we think it makes sense to have a formula apply for those people that have to leave the paid workforce, that are still working probably harder, to have some credits applied so that when they end up being beneficiaries, they end up getting more than $400 or $500 a month, and those credits should be applied. I know it's something you care about deeply.
Absolutely. I think it's a great idea.
So it's hard to believe, but we are rounding the bend into our final question. We have number 915. And I see a hand over there. Thank you.
Hi. I used to live in Blue River. The trailer park that I lived in was almost entirely retirees on Social Security. They had no other benefits. They didn't qualify for anything else. Every single person up there relied on the food bank to survive. Most people were still running out of food by the end of the month with the food banks. These people are gonna die without all of these benefits coming to them on a timely manner. Most of them hunted, they fished, they foraged. They're too sick to do that now. They use walkers. They can't go hunt a deer with a walker. How are we gonna feed them? How are we gonna make sure they make it through the summer with everything that's going on?
That's an excellent question, and our values as a community, and I have seen this throughout the district, the most conservative to the most progressive part, that we take care of our neighbors. That is why Social Security is so critically important, and the programs that have been cut for food banks, for school lunches, some of our kids, that's the only place they're getting a meal. Those cuts hurt real people who can least afford it, so that my colleagues can make space to give tax cuts for the wealthiest among us. That is wrong, and so we'll just continue fighting for them. I think we have one. Can we do one more question?
Absolutely. Saw a question in the front row, a number I had probably already called.
Hi, I'm Cindy here, and basically my question I heard already asked, and it was, what more can we do? And I just want to thank you, each one of you, and actually everyone here for showing up. Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, and I'm going to leave it to Max Richmond, Peter DeFazio to close.
I always defer to the congressman.
I'm just going to go back to where I started, and I do want to thank all of you for showing up here today. And what Val said is we've got to talk to people. We've got to tell them what is really going on. People are getting their news from alternative sources. They're not hearing about the cuts to Social Security. They're not hearing about the cuts to the school lunch program. They're not hearing about a lot of the things that are being undermined in our country. You know, I remember I came here after Trump got elected the first time. People were pretty freaked out. We kept having to move my town hall. I was doing it out of the campaign so I could speak more freely. And we ended up here. And 2,000 people capacity, this whole place showed up on a Sunday. And the one question that I started with was, how many of you have been politically active and were politically active in the last election? And a minority of hands went up. So that can't stand. We all have to be totally engaged, and we all have to support Val and the others who are fighting to save these things that we all care about so much.
Well, I can't say it any better than Peter DeFazio, but thank you for inviting me. I have been doing a number of these town hall meetings. I was in Memphis, Tennessee 2 weeks ago with a member of Congress. 800 people showed up. 800 people. I was in Medford, Massachusetts with a member of Congress a week ago with your friend Brendan Boyle in Philadelphia 3 weeks ago. People are showing up. Yes, they're worried and they're concerned, but they're showing up, and that's, as you know, that's part of the first step, you got to show up. And thank you for showing up, and I'm so glad to be here with a former congressman who's a friend of mine and the current member of Congress from this district, as I said, fighters, both of them fighters, for you.
So I want to thank everyone for showing up here today and everyone who's following us online. We wanted to make this as accessible as possible, which is why we live stream this town hall. We talked about Social Security today, but if you have another issue that you want to ask about, we have a QR code that will take you to our website. You can ask your question there. We will get an answer to you. Or if you don't go online, you can just sign in on our on the sign-in sheet with the question that you have asked. Again, we'll be doing more of these. Thank you for showing up online and in this room, and we're just going to keep fighting because it matters.
Ladies and gentlemen, Congresswoman Val Hoyle, thank you so much for being here with us today.